I will be watching the fight live tonight. I am very concerned about the walkout times.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, right? If it's anything like Tyson Fury's last fight, oh my goodness, mate! Like it says it starts at around 11 o'clock. They ain't starting until 1 a.m. minimum.
Yeah, and that to me is just, I mean, I don't want to be like guys like time, blah 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 blah. But like, I really value my time in that sense, man. Like, I don't need to sit there and scroll Insta for 2 hours waiting for what is probably going to be, you know, an interesting back and forth. But really, like, you know, walkouts, in my opinion, shouldn't be longer than the fight.
They definitely shouldn't. But speaking of the fight, my final prediction for Ngannou versus Joshua is a knockout from Ngannou, most likely round 3.
Okay, that's
I've thought about it. That's where I would put my chips for it to happen. I've got some strong reasons as to why I think that's the case. But what is your final prediction on it?
My prediction is going to be a decision for Anthony Joshua. However, I think that Anthony Joshua will drop Ngannou at some point. That's my
wow. Okay. Let's unpack this case. So why do I think Ngannou is going to knock out? I'm going to put forward the case why I think it's going to be Ngannou KO. Okay. I don't think Ngannou can win by decision unless he drops Joshua 3 times, and it's unbelievable. Ngannou's second opponent is the judges tonight.
You reckon?
Let's be very clear about that. First thing's fighting is Anthony Joshua. Second person is those 3 judges set by ringside.
Why do you think that? Why do you think that the judges?
Because Turkey Al-Sheikh is the magician, the excellency guy behind the scenes, pulling the strings. He said out loud, like, bro, like, I want you to lose. Not only do I want you to lose, he is hoping Ngannou loses. He's praying. He said, I really want you to lose. Ngannou's like, well, okay, I guess. I mean, you are paying my paycheck. It's a bit of an odd thing for you to say. Imagine your boss saying to you, bro, you know, I really hope you fail at the project you're doing. But it's the flip side.
Bro, the project for you, what are you doing?
Right about that. Well, Ngannou's got that mental resilience. So, well, it doesn't really matter what Turkish Al-Sheikh says. I'm going to win and dominate. Yep. I question, I mean, like, did the judges, the amount of money they're getting paid, the decision we saw with Tyson Fury, which could have gone either way, I appreciate, but my goodness, man, like, I think if Ngannou's, from his perspective, if he doesn't finish it, just assume you're not getting a decision against it. I think it's so difficult for him to win a decision. I wouldn't even consider it a possibility.
Really?
Unless he's just like 10-8 rounds, 10-8s, 10-8s, 10-8s. I don't think he would get it. Yeah, I mean, maybe they would, but if there's even a 20% chance they wouldn't, then I don't think you go for it. Like, they've got master plans. The sport of boxing wants to make these super boxing fights. The cards are stacked against them. The judge is questionable. We saw that already last time, so yeah, I don't think it'll happen. I think Ngannou gets a KO, though, because if there were to be a fighter that would defeat him, you would have said it was Tyson Fury, because Tyson Fury is unorthodox. He is good at picking up like holes in your game and making you pay for it. When you look at Anthony Joshua, he's an extremely orthodox fighter. He is like God mode at the basics, is how I would describe him. Like, a very strong jab. He's got the power puncher. He progresses it. And I feel that fighting style leans in more to Francis Ngannou than Tyson Fury does. If I said who's got a better chance of beating, I'd say it's Anthony Joshua. I don't think the first fight was a fluke. I feel that whilst he's now got footage on Francis Ngannou, what Francis gains in having experience in boxing outweighs the footage benefits for Joshua. And I feel that unless Joshua sticks behind a jab and plays it quite safe, I'm expecting Ngannou to make a statement within a couple of rounds.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting. I can't help but think that it's going to be very much the opposite. I think you're going to get Ngannou maybe sort of like starting to work his boxing a little bit more, and therefore I think you're going to end up with, I think it's going to be quite a boring fight. You know what I mean? I think Ngannou's going to come and try and make it fun. I think Anthony Joshua is going to like resist that you know, that sort of stand and trade style. I wonder who was the last high power puncher that you can remember Anthony Joshua fighting? I'm just having to think, because obviously Tyson Fury had Deontay Wilder, and Deontay Wilder is obviously like a good, well, reasonably good warm-up fight for somebody like Ngannou. You've got somebody who's gonna, you know, got one punch knockout power. Yes. That's a great warm-up fight. Who has Anthony Joshua fought recently in the last couple of years who could even remotely sort of test his chin?
Well, we had Ruiz, didn't we? Ruiz did what he did. Then we had Usyk as well, do what he did. But did Usyk drop? I think he dropped Joshua, didn't he, at some point? Yeah, I need to double check on that. But my point would be that, like, I don't think you've got to be that, like, I feel if you're cruiser or heavyweight, you have enough power to knock them down. It's just a question of, can I connect or not? What's delivery mechanisms? More
do you
so
think there's
than
a
all that
big
powerful.
Difference between that sort of touch of death, though, right? Do you know what I mean?
I think so, yeah. I mean, like, Dewey Cooper, Francis Ngannou's coach, explained like this. You know, because he said, like, who hits harder? Is it Francis Ngannou or Deontay Wilder? He's like, well, I wouldn't think of it that way. I would think about it, who hits harder with what? And he was like, Deontay Wilder's got that right hand of death. The thing about Francis Ngannou is that it's left hook, left uppercut, right uppercut. Every single shot is potentially fight-ending. So it's like, I've now got 8 things to worry about, 8 different shots.
And just they've only got to get it once as well.
You just has to touch you once with it. Exactly. The thing is, like, if I look at Anthony Joshua, he either goes out there and obliterates him. That is your best case scenario. Anything less than complete and utter annihilation, I don't think his stock goes anywhere. Just for the MMA fans, because we get it, but I feel for the boxing community, they need to see Anthony Joshua come out and absolutely destroy him. The only way that I see this fight's either going to be very exciting or it's going to be fall asleep territory. If Anthony Joshua sits behind that jab, plays it safe, circles out, but I feel that Anthony Joshua's going to want to come make a statement on it as well. That's why I'm expecting there to be fireworks. I feel that Francis Ngannou's got the chin to take it. He's got that granite chin, so I'm expecting him to come and make some magic happen with that. Any one of his shots. So,
if you were if you were Francis Ngannou's coach, what game plan would you give him? And if you were Anthony Joshua's coach, what game plan would you give him? And how should each of these guys approach this?
That's a really good question, actually, because the thing is, when we said this last episode, was that Francis Ngannou discovered opportunities in the fight. We talked about it as well, didn't we? Like, MMA coaches saying, hey, Liam, what's 5 + 5? What's the name of your daughter? To get you, like, your cerebral cortex, like, engaged, the thinking part of your brain. Francis Ngannou's got enough experience that even if he doesn't have the tools, he can discover, that jab body shot's working quite nicely. Let me see how I can work that a little bit more for some other shots. I think he can adapt on the fly. I think his IQ's such that good. If I'm designing Francis Ngannou's game plan, though, what have I got to be aware of? For me, I guess it would be... The thing is, like, Anthony Joshua has to have more reach than Tyson Fury did. I mean, because the success that Ngannou had against Tyson Fury, which will inform his current game plan, is he had a good chance switching southpaw, that straight left down the barrel, and then also reading his attacks and capturing it on the left. The problem, I guess, with Anthony Joshua is he's very orthodox. So where are the opportunities? I mean, I'll think about it for a sec, but have you got any strong opinions on that?
I was thinking through the eyes of Anthony Joshua's coach, and I think obviously, like, Ngannou's got that, like, wicked left hook, and you mentioned the other looping punches that he throws, like the uppercuts and things like that. So, yeah, I think what you said in terms of, like, sticking behind the jab, maybe double jabbing, and, like, you know, really savoring and saving that straight punch that he has. Do you know what I mean? That straight right. Because I feel like that's something that if you were Ngannou, you would be looking at, you know, countering that straight right. You'd be looking at throwing a left hook to the body, throwing a left hook to the head.
I agree with that. I think the straight shot to the body with Joshua, and I think more than likely, if I'm game planning from Ngannou, I'm saying I want you to close the distance and do more hook-centric game to Joshua, and then maybe when he's got those long shots coming at you, the 1-2s, just be able to get some initiative at the back of that. But if I'm Anthony Joshua's coach, I'm saying, bro, I want you nowhere near this guy. I want you to stick behind the 1-2, stiff jab, take a bit more of a Klitschko style to it, and just don't do any fancy combinations. Keep it really crisp and defensively sound so that you're not giving him an opportunity to get into the fight. That would, and rely on your boxing-centric footwork to get around that.
It's interesting because that's like, if you think, you know, so Ngannou, like you said before, like really good, powerful hooker, do you know what I mean? Uppercuts, left hooks, all the rest of these sort of things. Who we know that's got very, very powerful hooking shots? Israel Adesanya. How did Israel Adesanya lose his title? Sean Strickland walked him down in straight shots to beat the hooks. Do you think there's ever a space for Anthony Joshua to employ that Sean Strickland type of game plan and just walk forward and just put straight shots consistently to make sure that there is no looping shots?
I think Anthony Joshua's got to play it long. I don't think he can play close range with Francis. I think the problem is, like, if you're close range, your attacking arsenal of available weapons gets very, very high. Uppercuts, hooks, everywhere. If he's at distance, he can see where the shots are coming from, right? The thing with the Francis is, the last place I'd want to be if the Francis is in the phone booth. I'd be like, I'd want to give my distance to say, you stay over there so I can see what's coming at me. And even though, you know, even if you've got a Marauder, even if you've got Joshua, he's going to want those big, heavy shots. I just think it gives him way too much opportunity. So then maybe it becomes a question of, how does Francis Ngannou close the distance against Joshua? How does he get past that jab? It's going to be ring control, isn't it? Like, what do they call
hand fight?
Yeah, hand fight's a good one as well. Like, what's the assessment criteria for ring control? It's like, it's got a really weird name to it, doesn't it?
Ringcraft.
It's like ringcraft, or like, it sounds like a spell, doesn't it? It's like, but basically your ability to control the distance, right? And then like, catch him down and get the center of the ring. What can we take away from the weigh-ins? There's a lot of like, some of my observations were, Ngannou's laughing, he's very jovial, he's very relaxed. He's kind of like, it reminds me of Conor versus Aldo. Like, Aldo felt like he was feeling the pressure of the moment.
Yeah, Joshua looked like that a little bit, didn't he? He looked almost like a passenger in the moment.
He did, yeah. You know? He's got his ear pod and he's listening to his motivational quotes and whatnot. And then Ngannou's kind of like that, joking around. He's talking trash with Tyson Fury. He's very like, he just mentally to me feels like he's in the moment. And I feel actually the guy could win the fight, right? I feel like the mental is the deciding factor in this fight. And just what I'm seeing, like, Ngannou just feels loose. He feels like he's just, he may as well be on a beach with that mentality.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is just another day in the office, isn't it? Like, if I also I think, you know, in terms of who's got what to lose, like, Ngannou's allegedly heading back to MMA after this, so it's not like he needs to win for his next boxing fight. He's incredibly well paid, particularly for where he's come from and what he's been going through in terms of MMA and the UFC and all the rest of this. So the pressure in terms of the mind games, everything is squarely on Joshua's shoulders.
It is.
You know, like whether or not, you know, you think Tyson Fury won, whether or not you think Ngannou won in the last one. I mean, Ngannou still has that negative against his name. He's still one fight down. He's still 0-1 as a professional boxer. You know, whatever happens. And so going to 0-2 is very different to going 1-1 and beating Anthony Joshua, who's, you know, title holder, all the rest of these things.
It is. I guess that depends to what extent you put the stock at the record, because I think from Ngannou's perspective, he won the fight, and it's always like 0-2 against who. It's always about, it's not what you can do, it's who you can do it to, isn't it? And it's like, I think in Francis's mind, he won that fight. But the thing you can't, this is why I think it's actually the perfect cocktail for success, because in Francis' head, he is the #1 baddest man on the planet in open combat. And he left at the top of the game. So almost like whatever happens in boxing, he's got that mental like edge of like, well, I am the best.
He's certainly like in his own mind, he is the baddest man on the planet.
He is.
That exchange with Tyson was just incredible, where he was just like, "That's how quick. That's how quick." You know what I mean? Like, you cannot stand in front of me. You know, he's like, we all know that like you were saved by the boxing rules, and it was cutting. It was on
John Fury's, Tyson Fury's, and Tommy. There was a kind of like, I mean, let's be honest, right? His dad wasn't getting his like shirt off and storming the stage, was he? He was like, okay, that's very true. But it's like,
is it even a Tyson Fury sort of moment if his dad doesn't have his top
doesn't storm the fray? Doesn't storm the fray? It's a good question actually. Maybe a podcast episode on that. But it's like, does that need to be said? And he said, look, it got to the point where actually it did need to be said.
Yeah.
He said like had to, because he was talking about, you didn't say that last night, did you? And he's like, okay, let's just recontext for a second, like
understand what's going on.
Let's just set the parameters of conversation. It's getting out of control.
Yeah.
I think Tyson Fury. Do you think Tyson Fury truly acknowledges how vulnerable he is, or has he brought this out of his mind?
I think, like, I don't think it really matters. Like, in his mind, he's probably, well, it's just a like championship mentality, isn't it? Like, I just knocked you out an uppercut before you even got close to my legs. Yeah, or is it Ryan Garcia recently who's like, yeah, I'll fight MMA, I can wrestle. You know what I mean? Like, the wrestlers can't take me down. Fuck it,
I can't like taken down.
Yeah. But I think one thing that I actually sort of a bit of a tangent here, but like, did you see the exchange between Ngannou and John Jones?
No, was that when they were squaring up?
No, so basically, I think John Jones was on the broadcast, and they asked him, you know, what about you? Do you know what I mean? Obviously, how do you feel about fights with, you know, boxing, with Ngannou, with all the rest of these different things? And they cut to Ngannou, and this was one of the best moments ever, because John Jones was like, obviously, I could beat all these guys. I think I could beat Francis, blah, 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 blah. And it cuts to Francis, and Francis goes, in your dreams, John, you're fucking fat. You know what I mean? And
you're fat.
Honestly, I absolutely just lost it, man. I absolutely lost it. Like, that just shows to me, like, Ngannou's having fun with this. He's having fun with this. He's worked. He's done his hard work. He's done his hard training. He's got to the top of the tree, and he is enjoying his time in the sun.
And it comes, and that will bleed through into your performance, right? Like,
yeah,
I think maybe people who aren't in the MMA space or boxing space so much probably like, you wouldn't appreciate how much that. Foster Harvey describes it as 99, like the week of the fight, 99% mental, 1% physical. Because you're making no physical improvements realistically on that week. It's all about how you show up on the night. And when you look at Ngannou's mental space, it is off the charts right now. So I mean, I'm a big believer. That's the thing. He's gonna knock him out in 3 or 4 rounds. And oh my gosh, if that happens, what happens tomorrow? Like, does the world explode? Does it stop turning? Do we fall off axis? Do we freeze as a planet?
The level of confidence you has makes me think we need to bet something on this. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
What do you think?
What should we bet on him? I think we need something spicy.
What about something literally spicy? What about like the 1 chip challenge or something like that?
Okay.
Like, so somebody like at the beginning of next podcast, somebody has that spicy.
I'm gonna
they're gonna do the 40 minutes, the 40-minute podcast.
I'll bring a good
spiced up.
I'll bring something good for that actually.
Okay. Sick.
So things to watch out for tomorrow. Then we're gonna watch out for where's the fight happening. So tonight, excuse me, is it gonna be long range, short range? And I think probably just to see like Ngannou's energy levels. I think he's gonna be very, very high energy. Interesting to see how his game plan goes. But I think we can't really finish this Fight Night podcast without touching on the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul fight that's happening on Netflix, of all places.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something that, like, a lot of the content that I've consumed about this is just so impressed by the Netflix. I mean, it is the biggest access point for people to watch content in the world through that type of medium, through TV.
And what's on Netflix? I couldn't tell you. Honestly, like, I don't even know what's on
Netflix. It's probably easier at this point because it's so huge. You know what I mean? Like,
because I actually think the content's been falling off Netflix. So it was weird to me that Netflix is suddenly involved in a Jake Paul boxing fight, but the fight itself, like, I honestly, Jake Paul had a fight the week. I only found out like by chance, like yesterday, and I was like, "Well, Jake Paul was fighting." I didn't know that. Normally, you can't load content on TikTok without being barraged by it. So I had no idea he was fighting. They must have offered Mike Tyson a stack. Like, they must have said, bro, like...
Yeah, what's your thoughts on that? Because, like, to me, when you've got a 27-year-old fighting a 58-year-old, to me, it genuinely doesn't matter whether that's, 58-year-old Mike Tyson or 58-year-old Greg from down the street. Do you know what I mean? Because the thing is like, whether you put the exhibition term on it or whatever, bro, that's not cool. And you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, imagine that Jake Paul, like, actually brutally knocks out Mike Tyson at 58. Like, what is going on, bro? Like,
is that a win?
Like, this is something that, like, you're expecting to be matched in, like, Pride, old school Pride or something, do you know what I mean? Or, or more recent times Bellator, I guess, when they did Hoist Gracie versus Ken Shamrock, where they're like a combined age of over 100 or something.
I mean, I guess, like, I was about to say, well, age is the number, but I guess, like, that's been used for some pretty shady excuses to be Tyson. But, like, I guess, like, but you're a 58-year-old who? It's not 58-year-old but Sam off the couch. It's like we're talking about the world. It's like his
58-year-old man who's taken brain damage his whole life.
He has, but he can still, like, he's still articulate. He's cognizant. And the other thing is, like, is he as good as he was when he was 26? No, he's not. But he's probably still good enough to knock out Jake Paul. I mean, he beat Roy Jones Jr. Although when we saw Roy Jones the second time, it was a bit sad. I mean, like, this is why, like, Khabib and GSP leading at the top.
Okay, how about this, right? Because this is I just want this to sort of, like, to put some context on this, like. Do you think that Anderson Silva versus Mike Tyson today, in the same age category that they are at the moment, do you think that is, like, competitive? Or do you think Tyson just knocks him out? Because to me, that's a very competitive fight.
I think it's competitive. I think it's competitive.
But Jake Paul comfortably beat Anderson Silva. Do you know what I mean? If you put Tyron Woodley versus Mike Tyson, like, I don't think, I think Tyron Woodley's not going to throw a lot, but in the same breath, like, I'd expect that to be relatively competitive. You're talking about an ex-UFC champion, do you know what I mean? And when you actually sort of, like, look at, like, and take the Jake Paul out of it, put the opponents that he's beat against Mike Tyson, you know what I mean? I think, like, when you actually factor in 58, like, I'm nervous, man. I don't want to see, like, one of the GOATs of the game just get absolutely starched by some YouTuber.
It could be a legacy-altering fight.
People, like, only remember, like, people don't know who Jose Aldo is, man. He's the guy who got knocked out by Conor in 13 seconds. Like, doesn't matter that he's WEC champ and he's been the most dominant featherweight of all time, you know?
Absolutely wild, because the other one that hit me was, he was a heavyweight champ. It was Evander Holyfield.
Yep.
Brilliant. Always spoken of as a go. He fought Vitor Belfort. He got starched. And it was, like, really sad. And, like, I like to remember Evander Holyfield, like, very quick. When I think of Evander Holyfield, I think of the starchment he got from Vitor Belfort.
Yep.
And it's sad. You want to remember him for his heyday when he was killing it and stuff.
This is across the board, isn't it? Like, you know, people are going to remember Floyd Mayweather's fights with with Logan Paul and with Conor more than they're going to remember him, beating Canelo, or
They are.
You know what I mean? Any of these huge moments, and there's the same sort of it's just a tragic sort of cycle of combat sports, isn't it? Whether it's Bisping getting finished at the end of his career, whether it's most guys have like this fall from grace on their way out, and this is maybe the reason why somebody like Anderson Silva isn't in that conversation anymore for like the GOAT status.
I agree.
Compared to how he was in his prime, because he hung around a bit too long, lost to DC.
We forget it so quick. When he was in the Matrix against Stefan Bonner, he was like,
there's nothing else like it.
It was like you talk about him like he was like almost not from this planet a little bit, and now It's just like to see you stick around for too long. But here's the thing: Mike Tyson knocks out Jake Paul. He does get some credit.
Massively.
He did it at age of 58. What a badass.
I think Tyson should be the underdog in this fight, man.
You think so?
I know there's going to be a load of people who are just like, Tyson, heavyweight, size difference, blah, 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 blah. Like, look at the way that he weaves in on the pads and stuff like this. But just, man,
I don't think there's any way he loses this fight. I actually don't think there's any way he loses
Tyson.
Yeah, I really don't. Even at age 58.
Unreal.
Yeah, genuinely don't think he loses this fight. The problem is if he loses, though, which
I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong.
I know. But I feel like if Jake Paul beats Mike Tyson, what does that do for Mike Tyson? Bro, if you're Mike Tyson, you make... Oh, I'm speaking Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson box advice, but he really has to win this fight. Because his legacy is I'd like to think it's untouchable, but ending it with a loss to Jake Paul, that's a tough... And not to disrespect Jake Paul's boxing skill set, right? Because obviously he's a legit, very talented athlete. But to lose to a YouTuber boxer, bro, that's really tough to come back from.
Do you remember that stat where it was after 35, it was like certain number of fights for titles and the win ratio, and it was after 35, it was something it's not exactly, but something like 40 times a title had been fought for, and it'd only been won twice.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? Because age is a real thing, man. You name me a big football club that's hiring somebody over 35.
That's interesting because
and then extrapolate that to 58.
The 58. But it's what's the diminishment curve look like? Is it exponential? Is it? I always say you look at Tony Ferguson, right? He has been on a massive. From my perspective, Tony was amazing, and then obviously he lost 6 fights in a row. Mm-hmm. But I would describe it as he didn't just go from number 1 to a bum. He probably went from top 1 to top 5 level. Then he went to top 10, then top 10, and he's probably top 50 level now. You put him against any of the lightweight that they're not surviving with Tony Ferguson, but it's only because you're seeing him against the top 5, top 10 guys. It isn't that he's not world class, he's just not at the same level. So when you, and it's a problem, people don't want to fight at a world level, they want to fight at their peak. If they can't match their peak, they quit.
Yeah.
But you could be 20% below peak and still be a world class athlete.
Yep.
Technically.
So here, I'm off on a rant here, a caffeinated rant. Do you know what I mean? In boxing, right? So you've got your different strikes, your jab, your cross, your hooks, all the rest of these different things, right? Do you think there's any strike that Jake Paul doesn't know?
No, there's only 4 punches, right?
Right. So in this moment, then, so we can both agree that Jake Paul has the understanding of what techniques are available. He might not have the same tactics and strategy and experience and all the rest of it, but he knows what jab is, right?
Yeah.
So, it's different in, say, wrestling or grappling or something like that, where, you really need to know every branch of every tree for your technical side of things. I think in boxing, it's especially when you've got less weapons, it becomes much more about attributes like speed and timing.
Yeah, well, what? So let's think. So strength is the last thing to go.
Power, yes.
Power's last thing to go.
Yeah.
Isn't it? And then, but speed. Thing is, I guess in jiu-jitsu, speed is less of a.
You can slow it down more. You're not disengaged, engaging. You're not clashing with impact, are you? You're pressuring.
It's not a battle of military.
It's an entanglement rather than an impactful sport.
Yeah, it's not that it's not. Well, you'll know, right? As important, but I would say probably speed probably means more in the striking context, right? Than that.
Timing, speed, your reaction times, and then the thing is this: you could have a really quick reaction time. What's really interesting is that they've got studies for the beep 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 on the wall sort of stuff. Right? People's reaction times don't actually diminish anywhere like what people used to think. like recently, I think I might see if I can find a link to put into this description or something. But like essentially, like even as you get to 250 and 60, people's reaction times aren't that diminished. It's their ability to do something with that reaction. So if I'm 20 and I see something happen and I want to then throw my punch afterwards, like the time with which both of our brains recognize that thing happened, but the actual sort of moment of punch to the face, do you know what I mean? Like that's what slows down.